exciting to chew. Bacon fest, we're expecting you. And love, Iowa bacon love.
Shane Gillis, live on stage.
I'm a bit of a history buff, which, by the way, that is early onset Republican.
His biggest tour ever is coming to Des Moines.
If you're a white dude in your 20s and 30s and you're like, I can't stop reading about World War II, it's coming, bro.
See Shane Gillis with his unmistakable comedic style. Live at Wells Fargo Arena Saturday, May 31st. Get tickets now at iowaeventcenter.com. For more, visit ShaneMGillis.com.
Hello and welcome into an instant bigger than 12 following a classic national championship game. The Florida Gators beat Houston 65-63. I'm Jake Brend, joined in Texas by Derek Duke, following a heartbreaker by the Cougs.
That was just a classic kick in the nuts. I can't describe it any other way. That was a classic kick in the nuts. That one really, really hurt.
I know it's something that Hassel and I talked about on Saturday night, how there's so much more conference pride in the Big 12 than probably any other conference, and because it's that chip on the shoulder mentality, I can't even imagine the type of pain that a Houston fan is feeling right now, but I kind of stand with them, and I sort of feel it on their end. Like that, it's the most, I feel like, heartbroken I've ever been for a loss that wasn't one of my teams. I'm speechless. That's not good radio because we're not supposed to be speechless. I promise we've got a lot to say, but man, you put it well. A kick in the nuts.
It almost felt like the Tech game, that overtime game a few years back with Virginia, just the way the momentum had for Tech, and it just went away. And for Houston, I mean, they led this almost the entire game until the last, couple seconds or last minute or so of the game, and you lose. It's a really tough way to go down. I thought Houston played pretty damn well in the second half. Obviously, we'll talk about that. And I think things completely unraveled there in the second half, especially kind of in that mid to late part of the game there.
Yeah, I think the place to start is just that last minute. Florida goes up one, around 43 seconds left to go. Houston doesn't go 2 for 1. In fact, they don't even get a shot off. Emmanuel Sharp dribbles it off his knee. It goes out. Florida only hits one free throw. So you're down 2. And I think a lot of people are going to call that bad offense on the last possession. I think you could argue that, but man, Sharp had a look, and Florida, with a brilliant closeout, forced Sharp into a near travel, didn't even end up getting a shot off. Not great execution at all down the stretch by Houston. You've got to get a shot off on both of those possessions, and they did neither. And that didn't give them a chance to bring home the school's first ever national championship.
Yeah, it was weird. Houston, for so long, has been able to be the one in control late in those games. We've seen time and time again this season, they play really well late, especially in that crunch time. And in this game, they just completely folded up like a cheap tent. Had a bad possession. Yeah, Florida had some great defense. I'll give them credit too. And also credit to the Gators. I mean, this is like their 4th game that they've came back from double digits in this tournament alone. That's really, really impressive. So they were well prepared in this one. I just felt like they had the edge there in that final minute of the game. They were the ones that looked calm and and had their composure. Whereas Houston, they were just still running at 100 miles an hour, and they had no direction at all.
Yeah, there was a lot of possessions down the stretch where Cryer got a good look in the paint, just couldn't finish it off. Uzan really couldn't get it going at all. Sharp had maybe, I think, the most crucial stretch for Houston in a positive way in that last 5 minutes. He hit a 3, goes down the other end, gets a layup. But all in all, Houston's guards were not as good as Florida's guards when it mattered most, and that will be the difference. That'll be what Houston fans look back on in 50 years, 70. I mean,
You hope Sampson gets them there sooner.
Not many schools get that close. Very few do, and it's never a guarantee that you get back. And that, if you're looking at it big picture this soon, I mean, the game ended 11 minutes ago, I think. If you're looking at it big picture, you can't believe how close Houston was and didn't get a shot off. Didn't get a shot off, down 1 with 40 seconds left, didn't get a shot off, down 2 with the ball shot clock off. That's sickening stuff.
Which is crazy because we've seen Sampson drop some incredible plays in crucial moments of games, and in this instance, it was none of that to be found.
And that's what you want to see. Whoever came out on top, Houston or Florida, we got 2 of the best teams in college basketball, 2 of the best college basketball teams of the last 25 years, duking it out. The game was tied with under a minute to go, and the better team won. Florida brings home their 3rd national championship, their 3rd of the last 20 years since they went back-to-back in 06 and 07.
Yep.
Man, that picture shows it all of Arsenault, hand on the head. If you're, I guess you got to be watching right now, unless you're listening the next day. To everyone who's here watching, thank you so much. We had a great and lively audience after Houston's all-time win on Saturday. If you're here, thank you. If you're joining for the first time, thank you for being here. We're brought to you by WealthCharter Retirement Planning and Tax. Certainly a timely time to give our friends at WealthCharter a call. I know what they would tell you. If you have questions about the stock market, they'll tell you, don't look. Tim Hawkins and his team, I can say with certainty, are the best people in the state that you'd want to give a call in times like this. They specialize in retirement planning, but they can help with your taxes that are due next week, and they are just great sponsors. They're great people for all of your financial needs.
Yeah, this game went about as well as the stock market right now.
Yeah, no kidding. That game, the first half, Florida played awful. Houston's defense, they punched him in the mouth, and Florida was not ready to respond. But the problem was Houston couldn't buy a 3 in the first half. They're only 2 of 14. Walter Clayton Jr. didn't score in the first half, and Houston was only up 3. That's where I got worried. Then they come out in the second half and pour it on. When they built that 12-point lead, I'm not going to say it felt over because we've seen Florida in that spot in the Final Four, in that spot in the Elite Eight against Texas Tech. We saw them in that spot against UConn in the round of 32. They had trailed so many times this tournament, and they answered the bell every single time. But if there was one team that I thought, you know what, you're probably not coming back on them, it's Houston, because we have seen Houston suffocate teams for so long. And that's where I think the shock is for me, that they had the national championship so close to wrapped up and couldn't do it.
See, I don't think I was really worried in the first half. I thought in the first half, like the first 10 minutes of that game, I think you can tell both teams were full of energy. They're also very nervous. They're going 100 miles an hour, and neither one was really effective offensively. And I loved what Sampson actually kind of said there during, I think, a timeout there when Tracy interviewed him. And she asked about the poor shooting, and he said, this ain't January against Sasquatch. I can't even say it. Sasquatch State. This is the national championship game. So there's going to be high nerves in there. Xavier Francis is a guy I want to mention in that first half. I thought he had an incredible first half. They made that big 8-0 run there late in that first half, and maybe 10-0 if not for that missed goaltending call. But you're right. I mean, they shoot under 15% from 3 in the first half, and it just shows how well they played defensively to be able to hold on to a lead in the first half. And that's why I wasn't worried, because I'm like, at some point, Houston's offense is going to get this figured out. You're going to have 𝗙cie_𝗰𝗶𝗹 going to hit some shots for you in the second half, which he ended up kind of doing. But I just thought things were going to go a lot smoother in the second half. But I will say, and I hate to be that guy, I think the refs definitely played a significant factor in this game for the way it was called. And you mentioned in our text there, it was an overcorrection. It might have been a little bit of an overkill of an overcorrection because they let everything go in the first half. And then in the second half, all of a sudden, it was just nonstop whistles. You have both teams in the bonus with like 5 minutes left in the game.
Yeah, that unfortunately, the officiating will be a big story when this game is talked about. Right now, when it's talked about tomorrow by everyone else later, but we're bigger than 12 and we're here right now to talk about it. They let so much go in that first half, and I watched the first half with some friends over at a buddy's house, and I actually mentioned that. I said, man, I love how they're just letting these teams play. Two physical, talented teams. I think that's how it should have been. They probably should have called a couple more fouls in that first half because it was like football. They were letting everything go. And then they came out in the second half and they ruined the flow of the game. They had the stretch where I think they called 4 fouls on Florida in a minute span. Todd Golden in the Florida bench gets teed up. And then that technical, I think, influenced the refs the other way. Houston had a stretch where, man, there was 4 or 5 fouls in a really short span. J.V.R. Francis and JoJo Tugler both got 4 fouls. And that's really where I felt like the game flipped. If you look at the stats, Tugler and Francis aren't necessarily going to jump off the page. 5 points for Tugler, 8 points for Francis. But if you watch that game with your eyes, the impact of those two big men cannot be understated enough, cannot be overstated enough. And when they got 4 fouls each, it really limited both of them. And I think you saw Florida's ability to go in the paint a little more freely after that because they could not get in the paint in the first half. That's how Houston was able to suffocate them. Man. And the 2 technicals, that will be a big talking point. I did not agree with the first one. It's the national championship. Emotions are going to fly high. Benches are going to yell. I get if the refs have had enough. I think you can call that in January if Sasquatch State's playing. I don't know about the national championship. The one with about 5 minutes left, though, everyone knows you can't slam the ball on the floor. I didn't have a problem with that. I said the second it happened, technical foul. But again, we're 13 minutes into the show and we're talking about officiating, and we shouldn't be doing that. And we would have been talking about the officials regardless. Houston win, Houston loss. It was a big story because I got 4 texts about it from different people. You just hate to see that in the national championship.
Yeah, one of those texts was definitely for me. And you're right. I think in the first half, I think it was very obvious that Houston's toughness and aggressiveness and their physicality, it was a problem for Florida. And I know maybe a couple more whistles probably should have been called there in the first half. But that completely, the way the second half went with the whistles just blowing constantly, completely changed the way Houston played this game. And I get it. I still think it was an overcorrection. I think it was beyond an overcorrection. You mentioned, I think it was 3 fouls in 9 seconds is what Ian Eagle said on the broadcast there. It was so fast. It happened so quickly. And yeah, it did change the game where you had Francis and Tugler in foul trouble. I think both of them had 4 fouls, I think with 5 minutes left in the game. So yeah, it completely changed the way the game it happened. So I don't know. Again, I hate bringing up officiating, but you're right. We would have brought it up regardless if Houston would have won or not.
So Houston takes the lead. 16:25 left. They go up 12 points. Florida follows it up with a really good run. They tie the game at 48 with just under 8 minutes to go. And then Houston, I felt like they took command again of the game, but there's just a few instances where it looked like they were going to have a kill shot. I know the foul on LJ Cryer at the top of the key on the loose ball that would have most likely ended in a Houston fast break point. I thought that changed the game, but the reality of it is Houston didn't score a field goal after LJ Cryer put Houston up 2 with 2.5 minutes left. just like we saw with Duke the other night. You can talk about officiating, you can talk about what the other team did, but at the end of the day, if you have a lead and you don't make a basket in the last 2.5 minutes of the game, in Duke's case, if you don't make more than one basket in the last 10.5 minutes of a game, you're not going to win many of them. And that will be, I think, the legacy, not of this Houston team, but of Houston's shortcoming of being that close to winning a national championship.
Yeah, we can bitch about the officiating until the cows come home, but the reality is, if you look at the box, Houston shot 34% from the field and 24% from the three. I mean, you're not going to win many national championship games like that, no matter how good you play defensively. So it was a very poor shooting night for Houston. Unfortunately, they picked a really, really bad night to do it on.
Yeah, and you've got these casuals that I love them. Casuals are what makes sports great, because not everybody's sickos and diehards like us. But I guarantee if you turn on ESPN radio tomorrow, or Stephen A. Smith, a guy who I would bet my mortgage that Stephen A. Smith didn't watch a single second of Houston before March Madness, you'll see these talking heads say, "Oh, they're just not a good offensive team." That's not true. Houston entered the tournament the number one 3-point shooting team efficiency-wise in the entire country. Like, they had good shots, they just didn't fall. But I think a lot of that's got to do with Florida's length. We can talk about Houston's length all day long. Florida matched that on the other end. The reason that Houston didn't get a shot off on that final possession wasn't because of some awful set. I mean, they took way too long to get in the position to get a shot off. There's room for critique there. But Sharp was open when he caught it. And Florida, I think it was Houck. I honestly haven't rewatched the play since the initial replay on the broadcast. But Houck got a hand up, contested it, and forced a turnover. And that's a winning play. If it would have happened the other way, we'd be sitting here praising Houston and their defensive ability. I think Florida deserves just as much and more credit for the way that they were able to lock down on defense down the stretch.
And to their credit, I don't think they played their best game by any means either.
No.
They turned the ball over a ton in this game, and I felt like at times Houston wasn't always quite able to take advantage of that. So, again,
how many, not just turnovers, how many travels did Alex Condon have in the first half alone?
I think it was like 3.
Yeah,
It was 3, I think.
Florida's best players were not at their best. Walter Clayton Jr., only 11 points, 3 of 10 shooting. But, man, the 3 that he hit down the stretch was one of the biggest shots of the game. Yeah. And we've seen Clayton go on a Shabazz Napier, Kemba Walker type run this tournament. And Florida was able to overcome a pretty poor shooting night by their best player and still win. And that's the making of a great team. Florida has been, really since probably mid-January, the best team in the SEC. Houston has without a doubt been the best team in the Big 12. You could argue the best team in the country since Christmas. This was 2 superpowers going at it, and it was pretty spectacular to watch.
Yeah, and I saw some people saying, well, if Houston played in the SEC, like, let's be real. If Houston played in the SEC, they would still be right here where they belong. They are still a top-notch team. I don't look at them any differently despite this loss. They didn't play their best today. I mean, this team's lost, 1 game? Now this is number 2 since the start of December. So you lose 1 game between December and the national championship game. So this team deserved to be here without a doubt. I don't care what anybody says.
How will this Houston team be remembered?
Close. I mean, Sampson's made 2 Final Fours there now at Houston, made an Elite 8 appearance in 22.
Yeah, their 7-year stretch is, I mean, they don't have the title to show for it, but it is up there with the best in college basketball. UConn's won 2 titles in there, but what have they done in those other years? I mean, of course, UConn's won 2 titles. They've had the best 7-year stretch in college basketball. But Houston, pretty pretty consistently. They've been to the Sweet 16 every year except the year the tournament didn't happen since 2019. They've made the Elite Eight 3 times, 2 Final Fours, and now a national championship, but they just don't have that one ring to show for it. And that, I can't even imagine what that locker room is like to be that close.
Keep in mind, this is a program that's also went from the AAC to the Big 12. Like, they have jumped to the Big 12. It's been one of the smoothest transitions you're ever going to see in college basketball, winning back-to-back Big 12 titles. And this year just absolutely steamrolled everybody in the Big 12. And I don't think people nationally understand just how hard that is to do in this conference with so many tough road environments that they've had to go through this season.
Yeah, they were doubted by a lot, and I'm one of them. I remember when they came into the Big 12 last year, I think they lost their first road game to maybe TCU or something. Then they lost in Hilton Coliseum to Iowa State, and it's like, welcome to the Big 12, fellas. 0-2. It's not as easy as the American. And what have they done since then? Have they lost a road? I don't think they've lost a road game since then. They have been, bar none, just like Steeple Ridge Bourbon is bar none the best bourbon in the world. They've been bar none the best program in the Big 12. And that's a good point, because I think that if you have to quantify this 2-year run by Houston, I know Juwan Roberts has been there for 6 years, but if you just piece together these last 2 years, they jumped from a group of 5 league. They were not a group of 5 program. There's no denying that. But they jumped from a group of 5 league and took over a league that was run by Kansas, run by Baylor that won a national championship, run by Texas Tech that'd been to a national championship, had Iowa State, has Arizona now. Like, these are elite level basketball programs, and none of them can say they've held a candle to Houston the last 2 seasons.
No, there's a reason why they've won back-to-back Big 12 titles the first 2 years in the conference. They are built different. And to me, they are the new standard in the Big 12. It's not Kansas anymore. It is Houston.
Yeah, I don't know how you argue that. And assuming Kelvin Sampson returns, he's 69, he's getting up there in age. Assuming he returns, they have so much going for them. An elite recruiting class coming in. I would imagine JoJo Tugler returns. I know he's been on some NBA mock drafts. I'd imagine Milos Uzan comes back. He's been in some mock drafts. Emmanuel Sharp will be back. You lose Roberts, you lose Cryer, 2 staples of one of the best eras of Houston basketball ever. But this program is built to run the Big 12 in years past, and we can have the conversation right now of, well, how do you replace Roberts? How do you replace Cryer? But this time last year, we were saying, how do you replace Shed? And you could argue they were inches away from winning the national championship. We'll never know that what if. What if Houck was a second slower on rotation, Sharp gets the shot off and puts Houston up 1? We'll never know. But we do know that they were that close to being on top of college basketball.
Sampson has this program right at the door. He's right at the door, and at some point he's going to kick that son of a bitch down. I don't know if it's going to be next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. At some point, he's going to get that program to break through and win their first national championship.
And the unfortunate part, I think it's dumb to judge conferences on one game. Like, I think regardless of what happened tonight, the SEC still probably would have had the belt of the best basketball conference this year. The Big 12, regardless of result tonight, still has the belt of who's been the best in the last 5 years. That doesn't change with one result in the national championship game. With how the money's being spent right now in the transfer portal, that belt could be passed with another strong year by the SEC. But man, if Houston would have won, it would have done a lot for the Big 12 side of things in that argument.
Yeah, and this is the first time I think the SEC's won a title in over 10 years. So,
Yeah.
and since 2019, I mean, this stat, since 2019, the Big 12's had now 4 teams play in the national championship game, and 2 of them have walked out as champions.
And
Uh,
all 4 different teams.
all 4 different teams. I think I saw something else, just kind of throwing shade at Texas here. You've had 4 teams in the state of Texas from the Big 12, Baylor, Tech, at TCU, and now Houston, play for national championships over the last 6 years. And the only 2 that haven't in this big state in the state here is Texas and Texas A&M. So, go figure.
So I'm gonna admit I don't know many Houston fans. I especially don't know many Houston fans that would be old enough to be around back in the 80s. But they were there twice. They were there in 83, 84. Of course, they maybe had the most iconic loss of any team in national championship history against Jim Valvano's NC State. And you add another heartbreaking last second loss. I feel sick for those Houston fans that were around and able to remember both of those games.
And then you had an opportunity here to win in your home state of Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, San Antonio's a 3-hour drive from Houston. I made that drive many times. So it stung just a little bit more tonight.
I don't know where you go from here. Like you so rarely get that close. And you just have to live with that. Brian Slack said it in the comments on Facebook. Florida was calm. I got the sense that maybe Houston's guards weren't calm. I don't know if that comes from coaching. I don't know if they didn't have the right sets. I do know for a fact that whenever Florida was coming out of a timeout, whenever Florida was coming out of a stoppage where they got to draw something up,
they scored.
Their success rate in those final 5 minutes was near perfect. And Houston's wasn't. They called a timeout before that final possession, weren't able to get a shot off. And that's why the saying of guard play wins championships exists. Because sometimes you're going to dribble off a screen and they're going to crash you hard, send a double, and you've got to completely pivot the play. You've got to go to option B. And Houston didn't do that effectively enough down the stretch. If they were able to do that, they had the upper hand and they would have won this game. And Florida's guards were better, made more shots, and got more stops. That's what it came down to.
He's right. They were the ones that were calm late in the game. And like I said, Houston, normally you get a play drawn up by Sampson. It's worked out pretty well in the tournament so far, and it didn't tonight when it mattered most. And Houston just didn't look prepared there in those final crunch time seconds.
So I've never experienced Iowa State being in a championship like that. I wasn't alive for 2000. I was at the Big 12 championship. I drove to the Big 12 championship in Arlington. That was a butt kicking. That game was over in the third quarter. But that drive back sucked so bad. That 12-hour drive. But do you know what would have sucked more? If I didn't go to Freedom Tire before that, I had a bad tire, and my tire blew out in the middle of Oklahoma, and I had to stop and sit on the middle of the road. But luckily, I did go to Freedom Tire before that trip to Dallas all the way back in December. I hope if you're traveling in the future that you also are able to stop at Freedom Tire, locations conveniently around the metro. Got one in Ames, Altoona, Des Moines, West Des Moines, Urbandale. Quentin Crowner and his team will take care of you, not just for tires, that's what they specialize in, but they are also great at all-around car maintenance, oil changes, all that fun stuff. Go give our friends at Freedom Tire a stop at any of their central Iowa locations, or you can visit freedomtire.com. We thank that local company for supporting this local business here at Iowa Everywhere. So the SEC, man, they they had a historic tournament at 14 teams and 7 to the Sweet 16, 2 to the Final Four, and of course the national champion. It's crazy looking back at how many different points Florida's season could have ended. Texas Tech had a 12-point lead on them in the last 5 minutes, and Walter Clayton Jr. went into total Kemba Walker, Steph Curry mode and was able to bring them back. That's what I think is so great about the sport of college basketball, because if Florida and Texas Tech played in a 7-game series like you're in the NBA, Florida probably wins it in 6 games. I think I'd say that pretty confidently. But it's a 1-game series. And Tech was that close to ending Florida's season. And Clayton made one more shot. Not only does it keep them alive, it keeps their dream alive to reach the mountaintop, as we can see. This photo right here, they lift their 3rd national championship trophy of this millennium.
Just a big kick in the nuts. That's all that is. I don't even want to look at that picture. I don't
Yeah,
want to look at it.
So they beat Maryland by 16, but they were down early in that game too.
And Maryland was a pretty good team. A lot of people actually picked Maryland to win that game.
Yeah. UConn had a double-digit lead in the second half. Tech, double-digit lead in the second half. Auburn, double-digit lead in the second half. Houston, double-digit lead in the second half. Like, hats off to Todd Golden and his squad. That's a team that wasn't really on my radar, if I'm being honest. I follow the Big 12 like it's my life in the offseason. I live and breathe it. Like, I kind of expect to know where these Big 12 teams stand in November. The other teams around the country, I wait and see into January and February. And Florida was not on my radar. And Todd Golden, in his 3rd year at Florida, was able to build a national championship team. That's pretty spectacular. What a coaching job.
Yeah, and everybody was talking about Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee. Those were the teams that everybody was talking about in the SEC, and Florida was kind of that afterthought there. But, credit to them. They made a hell of a run here late and had a really good second half of the season for them. Got to give them their flowers. They were the best team in college basketball here.
Well, if you're in the comments, feel free to leave a comment, ask a question if you think that we've missed anything. Thank you to, Erlene. Houston's last play call was not good. I think it's so easy in basketball. You just go results driven. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about the last play call if it went in. And that's what's so beautiful about this stupid sport. Like, not just basketball in general, but March Madness. It comes, you play all those games. You spend all this nonsense time on message boards thinking, oh my gosh, we got to pay this for this player. You spend all that time, and then it comes down to the execution with 15 seconds left in San Antonio. And that's what makes this sport go. That's why we're able to do what we do. That's why people care. It's the best sport in the world. But man, for as much as it's the best sport in the world, it's also the most painful.
It hurts.
Only one team gets to stand on top at the end of that tournament.
Yeah, I had a completely different show. I was preparing myself for a happy-go-lucky celebratory show, and that fell completely flat. This honestly, it makes me wish I was on the live show on Saturday after the Duke win, because that had to be a hell of a lot better time than what we're doing right here. Because this is, like I said, it's a big slap in the face and a kick in the nuts. That's what this is. It hurts.
Yeah, I don't want to hurt you more, and I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I had so much more fun with 𝗙cie on Saturday night than I'm having with you right now. But that has nothing to do with who's on the other side of the camera. That's all got to do with the result. And they're different types of highs. Like, we just experienced 3 incredible basketball games in the Final Four. Without a doubt, the best Final Four of my lifetime, top to bottom. I don't even know how you would power rate the games. because all of them were instant classics. I think Florida Auburn was if you wanted to rank it out of 10, that game was like a 9.5 out of 10. This national championship was a 10 out of 10, and Houston's comeback win over Duke was a 10 out of 10. Like, we were so blessed to be able to witness this Final Four, and it is it's way too hard to even put into words the next time we might get something like this.
Maybe it's something about San Antonio. The last time they had all 4 1 seeds go to the Final Four was 2008, was it? I think that's correct, isn't it?
Yep.
So that was in San Antonio. That's where Mario Chalmers hit that shot against Memphis, and you had that outstanding national championship game. You had this one, so I don't know, man. I'm just saying, maybe bring it back to San Antonio.
Amanda asks, any too early predictions for next season?
Just follow the portal.
Yeah, so I've always thought that too early predictions were dumb. And this is not at you, Amanda. I appreciate the question. Thank you for watching and supporting us on Iowa Everywhere. I've always thought that. Don't get me wrong. I always click on it. I always, like, ESPN already probably has their way too early top 25 for next year. As soon as we stop recording, I'm going to click on it and get pissed off. Be like, what the hell are you talking about? You only got Baylor at 22. Did you see who they brought in? But these too early predictions now, with the state of the transfer portal, are even dumber. Like,
they get changed tomorrow.
We saw what happened this weekend with Joshua Jefferson. Like 2 weeks ago, he committed to, ESPN's too early predictions has 𝗙𝗵𝗋 at 13. ESPN's already got it out. But we saw what happened this weekend with Joshua Jefferson. 2 weeks ago, you get this word, he's committed, coming back to Iowa State. Says in a post-game interview to Ben Hutchins, I'm 100% back. And then you get this nonsense agent work, and all of a sudden Iowa State's re-recruiting him. So it's so hard to make these early predictions before the portal's even wrapped up. What I do know is Houston's going to be back. It might be hard for them to be back at this level, but I'm sure as hell not going to rule it out.
You can never count out. I don't think you can count out Samson at all in this conference. I really don't. And like you said, it's going to come down to which guys are coming and going. It's going to come down to the transfer portal, which, as we know, is basically just the Wild West of a free agency. There's no contracts. There's no guarantees, no anything. So you don't know what's going to happen right there. So it's so hard to say, oh, this team's going to be great. This stuff you could say stuff one day, and then the next day it can change. The whole team can leave and hit the portal if they want to.
Matt Van Winkle producing, great as always. He just pointed out to me that he's pretty sure that was the women's way too early ranking. So the women's too early ranking had Iowa State at 13. However, the reason I said that with confidence is because there's no way that I would be shocked for ESPN to already have the men's way too early rankings. I don't even know if One Shining Moment has played yet. And here we are maybe talking about way too early top 25s. Yeah, that was the women's. They've got the Cyclone women at 13 heading into next season. I think it's worth asking, is there a shot that Samson hangs it up after this? He's 69 years old. I have zero insider information.
Still got a lot of energy.
Maybe the better question would be, if they won this game, is there a chance that he would have hung it up?
I could maybe see that, but he's still a guy that's gotten this program to the door, and he wants to kick that son of a bitch down. And I don't think he's going to leave until he gets way past his prime or whatever it is. But at some point, I think he's going to kick it down. And when he does, maybe he'll hang it up. But I don't see it anytime in the near future, unless maybe they win 2 years down the road. But he really wants that ring.
Yeah. And man, he deserves it. Like we saw,
he's been through a lot.
I don't know if it was the UFO that was behind 𝗙𝗵𝗋 on Saturday night or sitting poolside, but I think if Samson was in 𝗙𝗪's backyard, 𝗙𝗪 might have proposed to Kelvin. but I completely agreed with everything he said. That Sampson does deserve this. The quality of coach that he's been since he had that 5-year stint as an assistant coach in the NBA, what he's done since he returned to Houston and rebuilt this storied program that had Hakeem Olajuwon, Clyde Drexler, the 𝗙cie 𝗹𝗹𝗶𝗹, the way that he's rebuilt them into, without a doubt, one of the 5 best programs in the country. He deserved that win tonight.
Completely when he got there, when he got to Houston, remember there was videos of him like begging people to come to games.
Mm-hmm.
Begging people to come to games at the University of Houston, and now you look where they are now. It's just what an incredible turnaround he's done for that program. He's brought in so much life and energy to the city and in that school. It really is incredible to see it, and I really do. I think he's gonna win at some point there, and I'm rooting for him. I think he's a great coach, great for the Big 12.
Well, I think we've about hit everything. Should we bring Matt Van Winkle in?
Matty Van Wink's come in.
Matt, you've been listening to Bigger Than 12. I mean, we started this thing all the way back in August, football through basketball season. You probably know us better than we know each other. Is there anything we missed that you want to add on this game?
Man, I don't know. It's a hell of a run by Houston this year, man. They were an incredible team to watch. Some incredible comebacks by them too. Maybe just lost a little bit of the magic down the stretch, but I don't know, man. I don't think Sampson's giving it up anytime soon. Look at this. I mean, he hasn't lost fewer than 30, or hasn't won. He's won 30 or more games every season he's been at Houston, and you've seen that transition from the American over to the Big 12, and he hasn't lost a step, man. He's just proven every year that he can take this team down to a deep run, and just came up a little short tonight. It was a tough finish, but hell of a game to watch. And man, it sucks that college basketball is done, but it was fun to have a little bit of a skin in the game with the Big 12 in the championship. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's funny how likable Sampson's become, because his reintroduction to Iowa State fans. I know he was at Oklahoma in the early 2000s, but for people like me that wasn't around for then, his reintroduction came last year in January at Hilton Coliseum, and that was a guy that was not excited to be back in Ames. He was not excited to be coaching in Hilton Coliseum, and it was a really odd press conference. I'd love to pull sound from that. I just don't know where it is, but he was in such a bad mood that they lost that game. And he kind of got off on the wrong foot, I think, with Iowa State fans. But, man, everything that he's done since then, like, he is so likable. He's Bill Self level likable, I think, as far as respect goes. But maybe, just maybe, Sampson, he's a Southern guy, wasn't excited to come back and see the great corn that we've got in the great state of Iowa. Love to give a shout out to our friends at Iowa Corn and the Corn Growers Association. They do so much good work, and they are fighting for more than just farmers' rights. They're fighting for a lot. If you want to join that cause, go to iowacorn.com. That was a really stupid segue into that.
Pump it up, pump it up.
Pump it up.
Derek, you're going to see some Iowa corn. Well, I mean, the corn's going to be going in soon, but you're going to be back here in Iowa here pretty soon, yeah?
Yeah, we should announce. So Derek is making his triumphant return to Iowa in 3 weeks, about 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, later this month.
For the Brooks and Dunn concert at the Iowa Event Center. So we'll have a normal show for Bigger Than 12 next week. I don't know what we're going to talk about. We'll have a normal show, but in 2 weeks when Derek's back, we're going to have an in-person show, and I think we're going to plan on talking zero sports. I think we're going to pour some Steeple Ridge bourbon.
Have some fun with it.
And we're just going to have fun and talk it up for an hour. I can't wait for that.
These lips here, they have never touched Steeple Ridge bourbon. We're going to have to change that. If I hold this here long enough, will you just like appear through the camera? Well, I mean, after this game, I'd probably just finish the rest of that bottle there and just call it a night. But
gosh, if it wasn't a Monday.
Yeah, if it wasn't a Monday.
What's with this national championship on a Monday?
I think it's always been on a Monday.
I know.
Wait, hell, even football's on a Monday.
No, I know. I'm not saying it's some new thing, but man, they got to change that. It'd be so much better if it was on a Saturday night, Sunday night. I don't know, man.
I wouldn't mind a Saturday night, but either way, we still would have felt shitty about the result here, no matter which day of the week it is. I mean,
yeah,
the result probably wouldn't have changed.
They could have played this game at Tuesday at 5 a.m, and I'd feel the same as Monday at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah, well, I think all of us lost a little bit of something. Jake, I know you had a little action on this one, and I ended up I told you already this. Not only did I lose this game, I was in first place in 2 different groups for men's and women's. And going after Saturday's Houston win over Duke, I am in first place in both. Then South Carolina shits the bed against UConn, finished in second place, and now Houston just couldn't quite do it. I'm going to finish in second place in the men's as well. So that it really did me no good at all. I had an awful last 2 days when it comes to college basketball. It's been really rough. I'm a guy that would rather be completely out of it, so I'm not even invested in it, than be so close and to fall short in both the men's and the women's.
I got this blank sheet of paper, and I'm just going to start writing my apology letter to Kelvin Sampson. This is my fault. If Houston would have won this game, I would have won like $400 in between my bracket leagues, because I would have won 2 bracket leagues that I was in. It was head-to-head with another guy who had Florida in both leagues. And it's my fault for doing the math today. Because I'm like, okay, we got a $20 buy-in here, $10 buy-in here. If I win both, I'm going to bring home, I'm going to bring home $400. It's my fault for being aware. If I would have just let it ride, if I would have never looked at it, this wouldn't be a problem. So Kelvin,
call WealthCharter now.
Kelvin, I'm sorry. And yeah, luckily trust me, I didn't lose $400. That's
true.
That's the good part. It's more so I had this house money of where I'm like, I don't know, $20-$30 into these bracket leagues, and I could have walked home with that much money. But
I think we all walked away as losers tonight.
Bracket done.
Yep. It's
March done. Man, what a ride it's been. In all seriousness, thanks to everyone who supported us on Bigger Than 12, us at Iowa Everywhere. It's been so fun to tell the Big 12 story from week 0 of college football to the national championship in basketball. And we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here for the off season, and we're going to have a lot to talk about. And we're going to have a lot of BSing to do too. I can't wait for that part. Thank you so much to WealthCharter Retirement Planning and Tax. We've been in the Channel Seed Studios. We'll be back next week on Iowa Everywhere.